mic? Good. I'll be right back, stream. Water. Annoying. There we go. Is that really three? What's four? Son of a bitch. Let's try to lock our rings in. This? Does he call her? What do I get for skipping the gym more than this week? I went, but I didn't go as much as I wanted to. I want to upgrade my headphones. So the problem with this back pain is that it hurts if I'm standing, and it hurts if I'm sitting, and it kind of hurts if I lay around. Let's see here. Hmm. I think putting it on. Taylor wasn't really about they were the ones with the critical intel. Rounds. Really pissed that me standing hurts, me sitting hurts. I guess I need to become a hot tub streamer and get like a 0G suspension hot tub in here. Up the buoyancy, so I'm just kind of like, time for dance drills while I stand here. Oh, that hurts so much. Holy shit. Much like everything else, slower I go through it. Jesus, that hurts. Banished court, no more of the Imperium of the Elder Castle wants. They are of the behalf. Uh, huh. Very annoying that there's not a hotkey for um like I have to go copy paste the words. Hello, George. Welcome to this channel. I am writing a sci-fi fantasy political thriller at this point. It's changed a bunch since the description down below, but the description in the down below area will give you a little bit of an explanation. But it's yeah, a political thriller is definitely the right way to word it. The main characters who are not non-human and functionally elvishly immortal, like they live forever, you know, relive really long times, things like that. What are you working on? Obviously, a sci-fi political thriller, but mine is sci-fi, science fantasy. I should specify. There's magic and there is, you know, sci-fi tech. Oh, mostly what I'm doing is combating back pain at all the time. About half the stream is just me bitching about my back. Oh, nice. I feel like One Piece. Interesting. The overlap between those two is actually shockingly big. Oh. Oh, nice. But no one gains anything from sharing until. Scraps. He's built. I feel that. Um, are you trying to tell? I don't know how recently you started. Are you trying to tell the big story, or are you focusing on a like small part of the fact that the big story exists? Right. I have about 4,000 years of history. Not particularly detailed. The details kind of fill in better and better over the last like 6 or 7 thousand years. But my goal is out of have that history there and like you can feel the weight of that history places. But my goal is not to put that history into the world, right? Except for fucking languages, because I chose non-humans, non-human cultures, and an imperializing non-human culture. Like it's an elven empire to. I'm like, well, obviously, languages. There's been language drift. There's been language changes, but they've also absorbed a bunch of people groups that are going to have their own unique languages, and parts of those languages would have made their way into the broader imperial culture. And I hate myself for that. I am not a linguist, but there's a part of me that is like, well, I might as well be a linguist. That's awesome. It's good to have a project that big. Well, I think it's good. As somebody who has a project of also that big, I think it's good to have a project that size. Testing, testing, testing. I'm seeing my mic moving. Okay. I'm running NVIDIA broadcasts to cover, and then I have a Blue Yeti, a blue Snowball as my mic, which is going into NVIDIA broadcast. Oh yeah, no, it's really good at that. Broadcast like I have music going, and generally speaking, you can't even hear the music if I unplug everything. I've not found a good solution for stream for me being able to get a music into stream that's like not going to get stream muted. So not only is it not is it a waste of time, I present to you my short story repository. There is an argument to be made um, that these are me these are me getting distracted. But one of the things I found, because my world is so broad, right, and my characters can pop up kind of 1,000 years later, like in a very different context. Um, it's it's a great way for me to be like, I'm getting bored. I'm gonna go write. Everything I do pushes the narrative forward a little bit, pushes the story a little bit forward. Um, so there's a lot of arguments for it. There's also arguments that like, hey, you're you probably just need to work on your novel. Like, um, depending on the situation, on when timeline wise, but definitely worth futzing around. Also, be aware that like there's a pretty good chance that your first novel is not the one you're gonna actually get around to publishing. I wrote what are we 200,000 word ish first novel that was I had started writing when I was a kid, and had rewritten, including from first person to third person. That was interesting, and I published a copy of it back there, like self published, more as an experiment than anything else. But like that's never going to see the light of day. Well, it depends on how deep. Hello, lad. How's it going? How deep down the rabbit hole of world building you are? Because like at least a few of these are just, hey, this character's gonna go do firefighting, and I'm like, all right, cool. Now I have to do a whole bunch of work about what firefighting looks like in this world. Is that gonna matter to the novel? No, probably not. But like, it's the kind of thing that can just show up in the background all of a sudden, right? Like, you can literally have like, well, the fire truck came through. It looked like this, and your character goes, oh, "That's a fire truck." Moves on, right? Like, but because you've done a little bit of work on it and like built it up, I actually don't. I don't have as many of these shorts as I would want to have. What I've tried to break them up into is a bunch of like sub categories, but like my unfinished are just ones I'm not super interested in finishing. My two finishes are ones that I'm like, actually, like this one was a lot of fun. Put some work into this and like maybe clean it up. I never do. I always get distracted by the next thing, but you know, making getting the shot at One Piece is a lofty goal, and it's one that you need to put a lot of work into getting up to, right? But I think that's fine. I think that's just, especially if you know. I would argue that surprisingly optimistic of you. Far more likely that the same council operatives. They were also let details about the activities slip. Whoever the council compromised may be Eating Intel. Yeah, have a good one. This stream is just about folks coming through, chatting a little bit, and also giving you a space to force yourself to focus and write. So hopefully it helps. Good luck with yours. It's a big project. I approve of big projects. And thank you for the follow. Likely that burrito. It's military science fantasy. Bit of space opera in there, though this character is less space opera. Um, so it's sci-fi, but with elves that live, functionally forever until you put a bullet in them, and magic users, and a lot of like technomancy. Like a lot of or magitech, a lot of magitech that like yes, they have like implants in their heads, but what they're really doing is using like neuromancy and enchantments versus like modern, like cybernetic implants. Uh, I guess 40K. More like we're caught in Star Wars. Or like Sith Empire, Star Wars, where there's a lot of like weird force powered technologies. The issue with the 40K comparison is that 40K, I guess on a technical level, right? But 40K is a base is a lot of like just straight up technology, but they don't know how it works anymore, and they've built religions around it, partially to keep people from learning how it works. Like 40K is a little bit built out on ignorance. Gundam is probably somewhere in there, right? Like most sci-fi at some point boils to bullshit. I guess 40K from the Eldar perspective. It is funny though to write military sci-fi in this. Well, funny is, but in this day and age where like I don't want this to be an entirely like drone-based combat environment. That sounds boring as shit and like vaguely dystopian. But it's really hard to write about like, yeah, this is a logical evolution of warfare. Now that we live in a world where drone-based combat is a significant percentage of modern warfare. Now you've got me trying to think of rough equivalent. You're better than that. Uh, the other was other is to consider why. Well, they're still good. Drita and the council. Not actions. I'm not literally connected. You're better. Spook. Here. We are still deep in lectures to actually that's a good point. We are deep in lectures to bear. Rowan's back on screen. How are you doing, River? Fuck me, this chapter got really big. Oh. Oh no, that's a problem. Okay. Hey, productive, positive, productive, unpositive. Productive is good, generally speaking. But there's the productive, the unfun, positive, but tiring. Hey, that's a good day. Got hot packs all over my back just because I skipped going to the gym like twice this week. Well, not the only reason, but big is this right now? Okay, only 3,000 words. I can live with. Okay, well, 4,000 words. That's not as bad as I feared. Deliberately connect. Defensiveness in his voice. But in our case, it's a deeply troublesome. Alleged support. It's almost certain. Assuming. Head operatives supporting the youngest. Hold on. If Vanished. I'm gonna be right back. Man, I just got comfy. I always get comfy and then I need to go pee. It's the worst. Return. All right. The 4,000 words working on are up on the stream piece of focus. You know, I didn't see him. I assume he's on his chair, which is the only cozy chair in the entire apartment now. I guess technically. But it functionally belongs to him. I have, when I set everything up in this apartment, I put the cat tree in my office because I was operating on the assumption that he spent most of his time on the cat tree in the studio apartment to be near me. That is not the fucking case. I don't know what the case was. He never spends any time in that cat tree now. There isn't a second of time spent in that cat tree. Now I'm running the cat though because you got the cat on my brain. Also, this motherfucker. I'll be right back. Oh, he was cozy on the bed instead. That made him scoopable. Whether he wanted to be or not, he was scooped. This motherfucker ate a piece of trash in front of me. I was letting him play with it because he doesn't eat things he's not supposed to eat most of the time. So I had opened up some packaging. Honestly, I don't even remember what it was. Um, but it had come with some kind of like padding material, right? Uh, and there was a bit of padding like this big, not very big, that like I didn't sweep up when I cleaned up or whatever. It got left out, and he liked to play with it. And I was like, all right, that's cute. I'll let him play with it. He likes to play with trash. It's his favorite toy. I could put out all the toys I own from him, and he wouldn't touch any of them. He'll the trash. Um, and I sit down, just chilling. It's my day. I took a day off in the middle of the week because of a doctor's appointment. I had to go, an hour to drive there, an hour back. Just I sit down, give him some pets. He gives me, some head rubs. He looks down. He picks up the piece of garbage. He tosses it. He looks down. He picks it up. He just eats it. So fast. I couldn't even get to him to like open his mouth. He's big. If he doesn't want me to open his mouth, it's a struggle to open his mouth. He swallowed it before I could get to him. He's fine. I'm keeping an eye on him. But that's something I've got to worry about now. He started picking up and throwing my dice around, which is really cute, but now I got to be worried about him eating my dice. That's why you get Scoop. I've had dogs. I've grown up with dogs. I'm used to animals eating things that they shouldn't, putting things in their mouth that they should not be putting in their mouth. This motherfucker. See, if it was a dog, I'd be less worried about it, but this is a cat. He did, in fact, roll a 10 out of 12 on the d12 he threw, but also my writing dice. Like, I have a set of dice that usually I use that are, they're like a. I'm gonna go get my dice. 1 second. Why am I describing them when I can just get my dice? They're Kware colored dice, like almost perfectly. Let's see. I'm not gonna. They're black, silver, and like literally Kware green. Kind of that more cadmium green rather than like forest green or something. So they're exactly Kware colored dice. So they're my writing dice. And Chess X is great. It's easy enough to get replacement dice. But I don't want my cat eating dice. If he was a medium-sized dog, I'd be like, "That's a problem," but that's coming out in the poop. We'll worry about that later. But he's just a big cat, and I'm like, I don't know what happens when cats eat things they aren't supposed to. I bought them, and then I realized that they're. I bought these dice because they're cool. But then I realized like there's one character they belong to, um, which is I was like, well, all right, I have to go buy more dice, right? Like, sorry, I distracted myself. These stay only for care. Although my goddamn gemstone dice roll so badly for me at all times that I barely use those. I just carry a like sealed set of amethyst, like protective amethyst, in a walnut case that I never use. Being the forever DM, these are somebody's beloved character dice, right? Like these are dice you bought for your character you've run for 20 years. I'm a DM. You're worried about got vague evidence that Counselor you got vague evidence that Counselor Evers reporting, but does that necessarily connect Rita having well, better than here? Council is greedy, power hungry, but they're not stupid. Think of the benefit from supporting Rita, especially while he's in but from continuing to support Rita, especially while dying impulses of his. It's always possible it's from the dying impulses of his. Or wrong section yet from beating Intel to Rita. Give the notes But some someone really does. Eh, someone. Part of me is tempted to change my Twitch name. Unrelated thought process, sorry. But move it over to Tales of Alexander and move my subs and everything off to the same Twitch name, but just kind of right now my Twitch name. Try to like reunify like since this became just pure like a largely writing focus. Part of me is tempted to like change this over to Tales of Alexander and like focus on my writing stuff as Tales of Alexander. And then just like move all my personal Twitch subs that I have to uh, literally the same Twitch chat, period, but spin it off as my actual Twitch. Man, I'm also shocked by the amount of time this political thriller has led to. We're just gonna sit in a room and have a meeting. Um, All right. One of the things is, oh yeah, brother. Okay. We don't need this. This. Yes. Does it make more sense why I did what I did? We're suggesting we're suggesting that the ministry and senior levels of the Navy are compromised by a terror cell. Not even a particularly powerful one. Actually, that would have been my suggestion before I found out that you think the council set me up to take a fall. It's strange that I find the idea that part of our government compromised other parts of our government less concerning than that the vanished court managed to do it. There's no evidence that the two situations are related. As this is gonna flow a little better. Okay. I hate how much time I have to spend sometimes just fucking around with dialogue before I'm like, ah, I got the like tone I wanted. Uh, the suggest there is Flames like that would only inflame the current situation. Just us here. The last time you played things, you played. We're sitting in the ruins of your plan, playing things close to the chest. Oh, interesting. I yeah. Hi Tumblr. That's not what I wanted to open. I was oh yeah. Yeah. Uh, it's close. Yeah. Up in this mess. Surely informed Jedikas are better than blind ones. I'm not even trying to break. Look what happened. I was on my. I wasn't even trying to break things, and look at what happened. I'm probably gonna have to get rid of a bunch of these tags that I've added over the years, but that feels like an end problem more than a. And look at what happened. Welcome back. T connected with accounts themselves or the accounts security. Now I might get to start trying. No. Unless it's Poetry River, I've given most of your stuff a try. I write sci fi fantasy, I read fantasy, but I also love urban fantasy, which gives me a pretty good gamut of, like, impact. Is it going to take me 3 months to get around to reading it again? Probably. Not proud of that, but that seems to be the pattern. Did I send you? Oh, good. I did send you a photo of Spud Kitten. About 4,000. uh, This is already very bad. I play things close to the chest because when I don't, either my dear brother, wife, history of hitting them orbital strikes. I still remember your crusade to cut the council. Guys. Bleh. See, that right there is where I want to use y'all. But I can't use y'all. No. Yins is just never acceptable. Sorry to all the Midwestern folks, but Yins is not okay. I had a boss who used a yin. I had a boss who used yins, and I had been around Southerners enough to have picked up y'all. And I had a boss. I had somebody else used use. What is it? Use guys. But like the Bostonian version of that. It was really bad. It was a lot of just like. I could establish Space Cowboy. No, what I did instead was I made up a word, a y'all equivalent in Conlang, but I still remember yours. And it's crusade to cut down the council. Because when which was why you were concerned about telling me you found evidence. You found evidence is too strong of a word. We'll go with it. Evidence that linked the mercenaries Maran used to grab daughter to Council's security ministry assets. And that's valid. I'm not thousand anymore and can understand Your rationale. Kidnap and torture my daughter. Circumstantially. 3,000 anymore. And understand. This is funny. This is supposed to be them yelling at Kware. This is gonna turn into them yelling at Sylviana yelling at Rowan. Just what? You can read that Ellen, very young, importantly, all of us. I wasn't the Grenac Javatica we needed to be worried about. Sometimes, literally. Fortunately for all of us, my mom wasn't the unfortunately for all of us, enemies understood. I wasn't. Weren't trying to manipulate me. Both adults turned their adults is both older triggers their I no way. Cancel agents. They were operating like enemy. I'm gonna go to the restroom really quickly. I have a feeling I'm gonna need to retweak Night on the Town again a little bit. Specifically, I know I am. Specifically, I need to make the reason why Relia calls and like I need to make it menacing in a way that I haven't managed to do yet, but that can be an editing thing. I am in fact drinking too much tea and water. I return yet again with more tea. It is the last of the pot of tea. I had a thought about getting a bigger pot of tea, and then I realized that I should not be drinking 3 cups of black tea during stream anyway, much less more. I need to diversify my teas a little bit too. Nope. There we go. Okay. Not from. Not that so young. Let me try to manipulate me. That's okay. I had no way to know the council was involved because someone wasn't hadn't told me anything. They were enemy agents trying to grab one of my people. I think I held back. I demonstrated admirable restraint and respect for my position. If we're getting to the yelling at me portion of the night, rather, let's see. I don't know. Someone tried to grab Rel, acting like someone tried to grab L. Hmm. Then they tried to grab and Rel. I think I demonstrated admirable restraint. Respect for my situation. I I'm not especially I want to, but you didn't do anything. Ah, 1 2, but you're right. It wouldn't be fair. You told me yourself Had a conversation before you left. This is going to be a problem. Hmm. Trying to think of the right way to word this, which is always funky. Uh-huh. Oh, good one. A history of hitting orbital strikes. Other than your you and Artaven's crusade to cut the council back to its original role is still fresh on the mind, especially since you've supported Petamon's efforts. Would do that. What? Hmm, I wasn't happy at first, but I understood. Fortunately, I think matching defiant there. It didn't hurt anyone until they shot me. Me and Rel. It was impressive restraint. I should have trusted you with some of the least the details of the nature of the threat. I don't think that would have stopped you, but it might have hampered your actions. The council was involved, but I still went for escape and evasion. I am. What's the language? K, use specific language. Brandon. I am good. Kidders. Don't really care what someone says after hunting me for the better part of an hour. Bring it over. They open with gunfire. I'm going to resolve the problem. Doubly so if I'm protecting someone. I had no Council Security Ministry agents. Anyone can make any kind of claim. Both my family and profession. I don't really care. Maybe they open with gunfire. Not only Javetica, decorated ear officer. Going to resolve the problem. I did. Frontline Loose officer. What is? Oh, 75. Ooh, I messed up. That's gross. It's 45 here. And even that's, but it's dry. And even that's a problem. Oh, Well, there's a huge heat dome in the southwest. Like, even though we're in a La Nina, we're in one of the driest La Ninas ever, and there's a huge heat dome in the southwest that's like baking the southwest. And it's not just, it's a huge chunk of the country. I'm really glad it's missed Washington for the most part. I haven't figured out what I'm going to do for AC in this place. Maybe before. Now I left, but not the end result. I am frontline killer loose officer. Someone hunts me for the better part of an hour and start shooting. Going to resolve the problem. We had no way to know that they were council security. Any kind of claim. Vinyalan for me. It's the high. I don't know how to spend time explaining like you can either it's the person in charge of the Imperium, but I don't know how to explain that like sometimes it's a joint position. Ardovan and Sylvia ran the government together. Not like one of them was president and the president like no, like they're both president, right? So Vinyalan Almi is multiple Almi versus Vinyalar. Except traditionally, Queen and King is one is consort and one is not consort. Um, like traditionally, you're not actually getting joint rulers. Yeah, I guess Ferdinand and Isabella is a good example. Isabella is probably a pretty good example. Of it was misogyny, right? Like Catherine could never really have a husband because the assumption would be the husband was in charge of her. Catherine the Great. Same with Elizabeth, right? Um, but yeah, the idea is, and they are elected oligarchically, but they are elected, right? So the Hardiman and Silviana were put into the position of Vinalmi, uh, which is Vinialvo Almi, full title, but Vinalmi, intentionally as a pair, right? Like, and sometimes, I mean, in this case, they're um, the odd hetero pair that's put into the situation. But a lot of the time, it's we are picking two people to be in charge here, because the Vinelmi is technically an enlightened dictator, um, right? Uh, like technically speaking, the Vinelmi has significant authority, um, but it's still liable for like civil and political, um, unlike our president right now. Yay! Uh, but is still like will face legal challenges and has historically faced legal challenges, um, for actions taken as head of state. And the reason I did that was partially on purpose to like build a system that doesn't quite work, but partially because it's hard to envision an empire that has 13 trillion citizens in it being able to function on consensus, especially when it is intentionally built to have immortals have a larger say in government, right? Both the Imperium, the Dominion, to a much lesser degree, actually specifically to an opposite degree, not the Union, but the Imperium and the Dominion are set up, on the theory that there is a class, a species that has more of a right to rule. The Union is set up somewhat in rejection of that theory, while also still set up under the auspices of Dralian imperial theory. So, like, it's a mixture of a mortal rebellion while also acknowledging the caretaker role of immortals. And so there is a little bit of both, right? There is a little bit of like, even in the Union, immortals have more of a right to certain parts of the government. It's also where you get a willingness to have enlightened despotism to some, or enlightened dictatorships to some extent. Of okay, cool, yeah, we might elect a crazy person into dictatorship, but the odds are pretty against it. We're not, we're not as actively worried that we have put somebody in charge who is going to try to kill us or rule with an iron fist. And some of that is also the Order of the Stars Light is here, kind of enforcing a basic code of ethics on the government. It's a intentionally bad structure because I'm not a poli sci student, but I wanted the structure to be a little fungible and breakable. Because at some point, what we get to see is Sylviana literally. There is a clause in the Constitution of the Imperium that allows for a very narrow time of suspension of government, um, and like complete absolute despotic rule. It hasn't happened in a long time, and it's not something that people rely on. And it comes with very steep penalties after the fact. But we're going to see Sylviana seize absolute control of the Imperium, um, and more or less the Union by accident. Um, and the Civil War. Yeah, it is. It's me leaning on, and it worked for Rome for a surprisingly long amount of time. Um, Even the consulships worked for Rome for a shockingly long amount of time before things got bad, right? And what happened was Caesar leaned into populism and became a populist, uh, and was slowly like eroding the powers of the Senate. And the senators decided that they weren't going to let him erode their powers, right? Um, and that's why he was killed. But it's also he. It wasn't technically him that broke the republic. You have to go back about a generation, to a pair of tribunes who broke the republic with like populism. Um, whose names I forget off the top of my head, but basically they broke the because they didn't want to be charged with crimes, and they were immune from crimes while in office, and they committed some crimes. And so, in an effort to stay their own just desserts and maintain power to some extent, they broke the republic by splitting it into fairly radical populist camps. But the republic recovered afterward. It just left kind of a scar that gave Caesar the space to do what he did. And Caesar was really popular, just not with the senators. Like, people loved Caesar, as far as we can tell. A lot of the writings we have are his, and his, but like, And so what he did was he acquired more and more powers as like the first um the first citizen. Uh but Rome had such a virulent anti-king ethos that they looked at him and they're like, "You're becoming a king. We're going to solve this problem." It just paved the way for Octavian to become emperor. Caesar is a lot of fun, but he's a lot of fun in that like the brother wrote his own propaganda and made sure that like there were so many copies of his Gallic triumphs across the empire that we still have them, right? Like we have the complete set as far as I remember because he paid money to make sure that there was a lot of copies of it. And then Octavian and every Roman emperor after him in some way had to tie themselves to his legitimacy. So, like, his writings were very well kept. But he's not actually the one who broke the Republic, um, at least in some ways. Gracchus? Is it Gracchus? Yeah, I think it's the Gracchi brothers. Yeah, Tiberius and Gaius Gracchus were the ones who and part of it was they kept trying to get themselves either elected tribune or consular because they couldn't be charged for their crime, like they were immune from prosecution, and so they just kept that. And you know, the Republic was at the other thing we always forget about the Empire was by the time Rome became the Roman Empire, it was almost at the extent that it would ever be at, right? Like, um, the Roman Republic was already an empire in everything but name. And that also helped break the Republic to some extent. But a lot of that stuff informed the way I set up the Imperium. Um, Along with bits and pieces of like, all right, well, no, they are going to have an independent agency whose entire job is to enforce like an actual code of ethics with magic because they have the ability to do that, right? They have the ability to check that you are acting ethically and telling the truth. And so the Order of Stars Light exists, and the Ministry of Magic does act as a counterweight on the Order by checking on the Order a little bit. It's not a perfect system, but it's a system that's deliberately like it's a system designed to do these things while also relying a little bit on the fact that like you know you're 5,000 years old. Are you mad with power and determined to seize absolute power? And do you think everybody around you is going to let you do that? Like, not you are the one immortal in a world of mortals, but you are like among your own kind. Welcome, TLBG 14. I am writing a science fantasy political thriller. Is I've kind of landed on as the description. Unfortunately, the story has changed a bunch. I like sat down and wrote up a pitch for it, but it follows a non-human, elvish esque immortal in a culture like in her home culture who basically this book is she has a life plan, she has a goal, she knows what she's going to do. She's a decorated special ops officer, and she comes home and things go to shit, and she loses like her entire life plan falls apart. But this book it makes that falling apart is a political thriller. The next book we'll see is probably going to be more of a character study. I don't know. This shit has wandered off a field from where I was intending it to be. We're working on maybe and how work the situation, but not the end result. Resolve the problem. And I did. Nice. That's a good name. Unfortunately, fortunately, that seems to be the outcome they were expecting. Gen Z adult in his early 20s, cousin shown. Oh, nice. Is that isekai? Is that there's another word for that, right? For the time travel kind of like. Oh, nice. Okay. That's a lot of research, unless you're going to stay within the band of time that you've mostly like grew up and understand intrinsically. But a 20-something Gen Z going back to what the aughts or the 90s is probably not a huge. Is probably not what you're aiming for. Nice. Oh, that's fun. That's a lot of historical research. I applaud you. Seems to, fortunately, seem to have expected something like this. I need to go to the restroom again. Sorry, guys. There's been a lot of restroom breaks this stream. I'll be back in a minute. I returned stream. Apologies. Oh, that's cool. True. Dig deep for mythological characters. I love it. He is a genius in the world's skullduggery. Plenty of precedents. I bet he won't even yell at you. He is our genius in the world. Um, yes. Thinking. Because yes, but that's because you're thinking small. Narrow. Maybe I view too many story. Here's about union. Is in fact much worse than the Elder Council and down what unfortunately even with my I have a responsibility to defend myself. Honestly, I could face charges for not aggressively defending. Was unfortunately seem to have predicted anticipated this. I don't think. Tell me that the council was involved would have stopped you, but I should have trusted you to temper. There really is no evidence connecting Rita's unexpected knowledge of the naval dark ops council's 10 security measures, tenuous connections to them. But but huh, but it's likely connected. Don't know how. I'm really not sure why anyone is feeding intel. How, and I doubt we'll ever find solid, but it seems most likely. Not really sure why anyone is feeding intel. That might be a secondary or tertiary effect. Compromising But the connection, but the leaving Quint. Oh, coincidences. Coincidences. Uh, gross. Not in conspiracies to snag government power. I am fairly sure that uh, being fed until is a secondary tertiary effect. Knowledge is a tertiary. I have ordinal words, but I don't have phraseology. Hey, 13, how's it going? So, is a secondary effect. Don't boss is second. Secondary is a different phrase. So I have ordinal language, but I don't have. I guess it's a matter of ordinal. We'll use autopaus. But well, we'll use quaternary. We'll use quaternary here. Quaternary. Result. The vanished court is that entangled. Around perception has that sort of reach. Even that sort of penetration, even piggybacked off someone else's plan. You conspiracies to government power. Something I can be fairly confident is that for Rita's knowledge, maybe yes, is it the council? Security and intelligence manipulate local vanished vanished report. But didn't they don't control puppets. He's frankly not important enough to anything going on. They're not important enough to be a factor in this. But of his brother and remnants of session, maybe. That that makes me more nervous. Going to have a heart attack. Implications. That's already. It's already such a stressful position. Careful. You're the fuss. Intelligent, security, intelligence failure. Like, that is a great excuse for the Vietnamese opponents to force. Let's step down. I'm gonna have to be careful with this. Push it too hard right now. It'll get tied up in the rest of the blowback. Welcome back. Anytime with the rest of like get them off. Enough. Yeah. We get brief moments of focus or of distraction and focus. It's my life. To make music. Not either my dear brother or his beloved wife. Hey, you want to come up here? Hi, Reggie. All right, 1 second. Let me scoot back so you can get up here. Hey, come here. Reggie, come here. Snugs, right? Come here. You're getting Snugs. Oh. All right, distraction time. There is a cat who is getting love. Presents cat. You wanted this attention. I don't get to hug a cat enough. But I get to hug a cat a lot. Oh. All right, what kind of trouble are we getting into here, Reiji? All of my closest family like to solve. Sometimes figuratively. Yeah, but uh, uh, I'm not happy you went to Earth first, but hmm. Who's your good boy? Who's your good boy? Do I need to go open a window for you? Yeah. 1 second. Not in the office. Well, not in the office. I'm gonna go open the other window for you. Come on. Scoop. Scoop. The scoop it in. You've been scooped. Very torn. I know that we need more winter and more rain, but we have entered false spring when the cherry blossoms bloom around here, which is always pretty. Time are we at? Okay. Probably gonna wrap up stream here. I've got. I'll be back tomorrow for a little bit. Not a huge amount of time. I've got a event that I've got to get to. But I'm gonna wrap up stream about here. The sun is out. It's too nice for me to sit inside and stare at a screen. I might go sit outside and stare at a book. But go enjoy a little bit of weather. Thank you all for coming through, lad. Thank you for the follow. Welcome. I'll be back. Like I said, I should be back tomorrow for a little bit. And then usually I do Sunday streams, not Saturday streams. But my life just keeps kind of pushing me to do one or the other. And I'm gonna let this percolate a little bit.